Well, this is intended to be a quick little video to get you prepared for the first big assignment in the class, 100 points related to your recruiting plan. And I'm telling you this now because the Dropbox is just now come open. You're not going to have to do anything for a couple of days. In fact, I would encourage you to kind of hold off on doing anything for a couple of days, because your success on this recruitment plan is greatly going to be related to the takeaways you get from the videos 6A, 6B, and 6C. And the first of those just came open today. So I would encourage you to look at the videos today, tomorrow, and the next day, and make some good notes about those videos and the content and the various sources you can go to internally and externally. And then take a look at the Dropbox that has the job titles in it. I'll go over those in just a second here, but look at those job titles and think about those jobs from an entry-level perspective, and think about which of those sources would be good places to go to find candidates for these kinds of jobs. Now, we don't want to completely rely on our great name and our wonderful reputation as a company to get people coming to us pleading for jobs. We understand that to get the people we want, we've got to go find them, and that's the point of this assignment. Where are you going to go find these people? Quick background here. We are partnering with the business communications students who are online, being taught by Ms. Shannon Perry. And so far in that class, as of the time of this recording, there are 32 students. We have 13. And we're kind of working out the matchups here for the interviews later on this semester. But of those 32 students, she has 14 who are accounting majors, 1 who is a marketing major, 12 who are management majors, and 5 who are human resources majors. And so Shannon and I tried to do a little bit of brainstorming and come up with 6 jobs that could be reasonably entry-level jobs that somebody could apply for and be qualified for while they're still in college. When we've done this class in the past, we were thinking in terms of what do you want to be when you get out of school, and we had my classes design jobs for those kinds of positions. Unfortunately, some of those positions require a bachelor's degree in accounting, and at this point they don't have it. So it was tough for them as business communication students to figure out how to show themselves qualified for these jobs. And we stepped back and we thought the process is good, some of the details have to be tweaked. So if we come up with jobs that they could apply for while they're sophomores in college, it would be a great experience. So we've come up with a list of jobs that we think might be of interest to these folks that they actually could be qualified for, and that, as I said, would fall in line with their major in a lot of cases. So for this assignment, here's what you're going to do individually. Now, you're in a team already that you haven't really started interacting with a whole lot. For the purpose of this assignment, you do not use your team. You do this by yourself. Right now, you don't know which job your team is going to be interviewing for. So you're going to have to think about all 6 of them. The 6 jobs are these. Number 1 is a customer service representative, and that can be defined however the group wants to define it. But for this purpose, without knowing what group has it or how they're going to define it, I want you to think about how you would define it and where you would go to find people that have the skills that you think you're going to be looking for. Number 1 is a customer service representative. Number 2 is a warehouse clerk. Now, this is not somebody who runs the warehouse. This is somebody who works in the warehouse underneath somebody else, taking orders but doing a little bit of independent thinking, probably some space management, and being able to coordinate time of pulling stuff off of trucks and sorting it out and maybe taking it out and stocking it. Number 2 is a warehouse clerk. Number 3 is a human resource generalist. The team that gets this one may have it easier than a lot of the others because you already, as upper level HR majors, know what's kind of involved in an HR generalist. So you're going to get to define this job. All of you should be able to think of the good sources for these kinds of, for this particular job. So again, we've got customer service representative. We've got, where's my camera there? We got customer service representative. We have a warehouse clerk. We have an HR generalist. Job number 4 is an accounts receivable specialist. Do a little bit of quick research online and kind of get the general types of things that person would do, and then think of where you're going to go find that, where you're going to go, the sources that you're going to go to recruit for that position, an accounts receivable specialist. The fifth job is a sales associate. That is so generic. It can be anything you want it to be. It can be a little bit more heavily weighted towards the accounting kinds of things or the marketing kinds of things. Keep in mind, we've only got one marketing major, so the marketing major from business communications has got to tag on with somebody else. But the sales associate, it could be on the sales floor, at Riches or Sears or something like that, or it could be a sales associate with some home marketing kind of thing. Whatever way you really feel this thing is developing. And then the sixth job is a computer support technician. This is not somebody that runs a network. It's somebody that troubleshoots on PC kinds of issues, login problems, resetting passwords, basic kinds of things that you don't have to have an in-depth knowledge for, but that a lot of folks your generation would kind of instinctively know because you grew up with computers. So customer service representative, warehouse clerk, HR generalist, accounts receivable specialist, sales associate, and computer support technician. Now for this exercise, the recruiting plan, I want you to do three things, and you see this in the Dropbox, but I want to talk my way through it to hopefully address any questions you might come up with, and then you can email me if you have other questions I don't address. For each one of the six jobs, I want you to do a couple of things. First of all, I want you to give me the title of the job, customer service representative. Then underneath that, I want you to give me the sources that you think would be good out of that list of things that we talk about in videos 6A, 6B, and 6C. And you might think that, there's really only one of them that's good. Well, you got to be able to justify that. You may think that there's 3 or 4 that are good sources, and between these sources we could get some good candidates. You may think that almost all of them are good sources. Well, you're going to have to list almost all of them. So part A under each one of these 6 things is what are the sources that you think would be good. Part B under that is why do you think these sources are good. So obviously the more sources you come up with, the more you're going to write here because you want some justification for every source you pick. Now that doesn't mean that you only pick the 2 or 3 best ones and you ignore everything else. If there is a pretty good source, I want you to list it because as an HR recruiter, the more sources you can go to consistently, the better your hires are going to be and the better your staffing is going to be. So you don't want to cut corners and just say, here's the 3 easy ones, or gosh, I have to write a whole sentence for each one of these things. I'm only going to pick 4. If there's 12 good sources, I want to know what those are and why you think they're good. All right. So for customer service rep, you give me the sources you think are best. Then you give me some documentation on why you think those sources are good. And then number 3, I want you to think back over the list and say, here's a couple of sources that would be lousy, and here's why they would be lousy. We would get very, very poor candidates for this job using this source. Here's why. All right. Do you do that for the customer service rep? You do those same 3 things for the warehouse clerk, the same 3 things for the HR generalist, the same 3 things for the AR specialist, the same 3 things for the sales associate, and the same 3 things for the computer support technician. So your paper, when you put this into a Word document, it's probably got your name at the very top. Don't worry about this Dr. Grimes Advanced HR, summer semester, June the 7th, any of this kind of stuff. Just your name. And then you'll have number 1, customer service rep. A, list me several different sources. B, here's why these sources are good. The first source I chose is good. If that source is door to door, going knocking door to door in the underprivileged neighborhoods. Underprivileged neighborhood door knocking is a great source because of this reason. We can get this from it. And for each one of those sources. And then C, here's the sources that are bad. And very quickly, not to the extent that you did for the good sources, but very quickly, why is it bad? A headhunter is bad for this because they only do upper level jobs and this is entry level. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Then you drop down and you go job number 2, warehouse clerk. A, blah, blah, blah. B, here's some dialogue. C, here's some sources. Then you drop down, job number 3, HR generalist. Part A, good sources. Part B, justification. Part C, bad sources. Then you drop down, job 4, accounts receivable specialist, and so forth. And when you're done, you have a Word document with all 6 jobs, with all parts A, B, and C. Each job is separate from the other. I don't want you to list all 6 and then try to give me the good sources for all 6. Do each job individually as a separate unit a separate block within the paper. Job A, then job B, then job C, then job D, job E, or 1 through 6 or whatever. From a grading perspective, I'm going to look at it from the whole. I'm not going to evaluate each one individually, but I'm going to look at the 6 jobs and what you say are the good sources, and I'm going to make a very value-based subjective decision on, did you do an outstanding job of coming up with a pretty complete list of good sources. That's going to be worth up to 35 points, and I'm going to assign either 35 if you did a great job on all of them, or I think it's like 33 if you did a pretty good job on all of them, or 30 if you did a pretty good job on most of them, or 26 if you really seem to struggle with the whole concept. So the points are 35, 33, 30, or 26. And that equates to an ABC kind of thing. I'm not anticipating that if you turn anything in, it's going to be less than a C. All right, the second piece of it is worth 50 points, the justification. It is 50 out of 50 if you do an outstanding job of justifying all of the sources for all of the 6 jobs. It's going to be 48 out of 50 if you do a pretty good job on all 6. That leaves room for a little margin of error if you didn't do real well justifying one, but you can still get an A on that, effectively 48 points. 43 points is effectively a B. That is if you do a pretty good job for most of them. You may do an outstanding job on one and a lousy job on the other, and that probably becomes a B. 38 points if you do a poor job on all of them. All right? And then 15 points related to what are the bad sources. 15 out of 15 if you do an outstanding job of identifying all the bad sources for all 6 of the jobs. 14 points, which is an A, doing a pretty good job on all of them. 12 points, which is a B, if you do a pretty good job on some of them. And then 11 points, which is a C, if you do a pretty lousy job overall. So 35 points on the good sources, 50 points on the justification, and 15 points on the bad sources. Totals up to 100. I'm going to look at each one of you, all 13 of you individually. You're going to get an independent grade that does not compare you to anybody else, just compares you against the standard that I'm going for. This is due in the Dropbox, I believe, by 11 p.m. on Sunday, June the 19th. All right, you're listening, I'm sorry, not the 19th. That's the schedule. Sunday, June the 12th. So you're listening to this theoretically on Tuesday, June the 6th. You've got a little bit less than a week to think about these jobs. I'm presuming that you'll do a good bit of it over the weekend when you get some time to think. Again, let me encourage you to watch through those videos and make some notes on these sources and where you would use them and when you would use them and why you would use them and how they would benefit you, what kind of places or jobs they would work well for. And we don't go into that specific detail, but you can kind of build the bigger picture around what we're saying. And then sometime before the 12th, which is Sunday at 11 p.m., you want to create this document, submit it to the Dropbox labeled recruitment plan. And that should get us good and started going well for the very first assignment. Get 100 points out of the way pretty quickly on top of the first couple of quizzes that you've done. And the bonus point for your profile picture. You're running strong, and we're making good progress. Hope that helps you understand what we want to do with the recruitment plan. And if you have questions that I haven't answered, shoot it to me in an email. For this plan, I don't really care what font you use. I don't care whether it is half a page or 12 pages, as long as you cover all 6 jobs and you do those 3 things. From my perspective, really kind of honestly, the shorter the better, because it's a little bit less reading, a little bit quicker on my end, but make sure you do a good job. If you single space it, it takes up a little bit less page, but I'm not counting off for any of that kind of formatting stuff, just the content on this one. Hope that makes sense.